Thank you.
So, yet another weekend. I don't know if you watch this program that's on Sundays on Showtime called Circus. I don't know the Circus. I think it's The Circus, talking about the circus of this political campaign. But they did an indirect interview with Assange yesterday on the program last night, asking him some questions and asking somebody very close to him, will there be bigger, more powerful emails coming out in this WikiLeaks release? And they said they're going to get bigger, they're going to get better. Now, meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to say it's rigged. So I'm somewhat confused. Is it rigged against Hillary? Because we have a foreign entity that is sending stolen emails into this country to clearly try to sway the election. And how does the election then become rigged against Donald Trump? I don't get it.
Well, I don't think the election's rigged. I think Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, there's been a lot of smoke but no fire. They haven't really sort of come up with anything that's particularly damaging or devastating to the Clinton campaign. Maybe if she was running against a more competent and popular Republican candidate, these emails might be a little bit more damaging. But every time we get something that might be construed as negative about Hillary Clinton from the WikiLeaks releases, Donald Trump manages to say something that gets himself into even more hot water and sort of takes the attention away from Hillary Clinton.
The Miami Herald, I believe, is the newspaper that came out over the weekend endorsing Hillary Clinton and made 2 points. Number one, they said they're endorsing her not because she's the lesser of two evils, but because they feel she is probably one of the most qualified candidates in recent history to run for president. They are saying she has all of the attributes needed to become president, despite all of the crooked stuff that we hear. Additionally, they say that that Trump is really a danger to the Constitution and our democracy. Comment on both of those, could you?
Well, I'll leave it for others to decide whether or not they think that Hillary Clinton has what's necessary to be a good president. But I think largely this election is turning on the fact that people are really kind of repelled by Donald Trump. There are a number of people. Hillary Clinton probably would have been a strong candidate, but I don't think she'd be winning by this margin. She may be winning, but even that's not particularly certain. People are just really repelled by Donald Trump. He's probably the worst presidential candidate I've seen in my lifetime. And therefore, you have just about every major newspaper in the country, really but one, that's endorsed Hillary Clinton. And many of those are papers that have not endorsed a Democratic candidate in decades, sometimes, 1916, 1932, well before our lifetimes.
Let me ask you, one of the things that everybody's talking about is don't believe these polls because conservatives are, and I don't even want to call them conservatives. If you're a true conservative, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I don't know how you could be voting for Donald Trump if you're a true conservative. That's just my opinion based on the things that he has said and done, and we see that with people like George Will, who refuses to support Donald Trump. But I have to wonder that through all of this, do you feel there is a danger, and the things that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, a danger to the democracy, especially when he's out questioning the validity of our elections? He's out saying that he's going to have his opponent arrested when he becomes president, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a danger to the democracy here?
Well, he's violated just so many norms and standards of sort of civility and acceptable political behavior over the last year. Where do you begin? Attacking a federal judge because his parents were Mexican, and saying that he can't get a fair trial because of that. Arguing that he's going to sue all of his accusers, that he's going to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton. You can go on and on. He just doesn't seem to want to be bound by the normal standards of democratic politics.
Back to my poll question, as I was sidetracked. Trump supporters, Trump says, and many people will say this, that you can't trust the polls because Trump supporters are lying to the pollsters. And they're doing this to really discredit the polls or for whatever reason. On the other hand, he's not talking about the number of, and to me, I think this number could be very large, the number of Republicans that are publicly saying they're supporting Donald Trump, because if you don't, you get attacked. I really wonder if they're really going to vote for Trump once they walk into that booth. I think that's another part of the polling that might not be showing right now.
Well, I think the bigger sort of possibility is that you have what are sort of shy conservatives or shy Trump people who maybe are going to vote for Trump, but they know that that's kind of controversial to say that, and therefore they might not answer a pollster's question or maybe say undecided or something like that. But the Trump people aren't saying don't trust the polls. They're saying don't trust the polls that have us behind.
Right.
Trust the polls that have us close, or there are a couple outliers out there that even have them ahead by a little bit. I've always said don't trust any single poll. Just kind of look at the poll averages. The odds that all the polls are wrong are pretty slight. And right now, if you look at the poll averages, you've got Hillary Clinton up, depending upon which average you want to look at, anywhere from, say, 5 to 8 points.
They say democracy cannot survive ignorance. I do wonder, are we not informed? Are we really not informed? Are we allowing, based on maybe hatred of Hillary Clinton, are we allowing these things to come through? Is it ignorance? And can a democracy survive ignorance?
Well, if democracy can't survive ignorance, it would have died out a long time ago. There's a lot of ignorance out there. We often sort of talk about things that we don't like or positions that people have as a result of ignorance. But I think most people arrive at their positions, even if I disagree with them, honestly. They just have a different value system that they're acting on.
I have a quick question going back to the polls. Can it also speak to some inaccuracies, the people who are participating in these polls? I mean, is it likely that a Trump supporter may not go to a Washington Post or an NBC News poll and take it?
That's not the polls that we're talking about. These polls are scientific polls that are, you can't trust the ones that are done on the websites. These are scientific polls. So they're reaching out to the people, which makes it really does make it difficult to trust the polls. Look at what happened at the Brexit vote. Those polls had that surviving, had England staying in the European Union and Great Britain, and look what happened there. The polls were almost completely wrong, reversed by like 10 points.
Well, the polls were actually pretty mixed on that. They only had the Remain with a very slight lead. So the fact that actually lost very narrowly isn't all that surprising. The other thing is that even the people may refuse to answer a poll depending upon who's sponsoring it, even the phone polls or the online polls where they're sampling randomly. But most of those organizations mask who they are,
right?
Because they know somebody may not like the Washington Post, may not like the New York Times or whatever. So they'll usually just say something like, we're doing a phone call for a major media organization or something like that. I suppose people could do that. But there isn't a lot of evidence of that. And again, polls can be wrong. But at this point, if the polls are wrong, it would really be unprecedented. It'd be across a large number of polls.
Yeah. And
the difference between Trump winning and what we're seeing in the polls now would be a huge swing.
Are you nervous about what happens afterwards? Let's say Hillary's elected and Donald Trump is still controversial. Are you nervous about what comes after?
I wouldn't say I'm nervous. I mean, I think we'll probably see a replay of the last 8 years. It seems pretty unlikely that the Republicans are going to lose the House of Representatives, although it possibly could happen. And if they do, they'll pretty much do what they've done in the last 8 years, which is they'll block whatever the Democratic president wants, and we'll have 8 more years or 4 more years, maybe 8 more years of stalemate.
We have 2 weeks left from tomorrow, and we keep saying it. Boy, this is the October surprise, one surprise after another. Who knows? There could be another big surprise out there, and we don't even see it coming. It's been a crazy, crazy year. Dr. Phil Klinkner, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time. We'll talk again before the election.
Thank you.
All right.